Can you believe it? We're on episode 3. I am getting ready to do some soldering stuff. I've got a lot of solder testing to do, and I'm going to show you some of that in this episode. Then we're going to bend the sides, and we're going to get the top fit into the sides. We are going to finish the solder testing, and I'm going to show you all the different tools I tried and different methods. I'm going to show you some massive failures. It was a little discouraging, but I came around and kept at it and kept at it. And spent more money on new tools, and then spent some more money on some new tools, and guess what? I got it dialed. So sides gonna get bent, the top's gonna get put into the sides, and I got some exciting news about some parts that are coming next week. What else we're gonna do? I think that's about it. It doesn't sound like much, but it was a heck of a lot. So here we go. Let's get this done. Okay, I wanted to stop the music and just start doing some voiceover here because I'm getting ready to solder, and there's a lot to talk about in this solder part. I had a really difficult time with it. You'll see in the end I figured out how this is going to work well for us. Finishing up that little ring that goes in the bottom of the sound well. I just put the sound well back over the wooden buck just to true everything up, make sure it's perfectly round, make sure the little tabs that hold the sound ring are at a 90-degree angle and so on. Very hard to get that thing on and off the wooden buck, and then I tack it in with the welder just to keep that ring in place when I solder. Now when I go to solder, you're going to see, like, man, everything just starts happening way too fast for me. I spread the flux on there. The second I hit it with the torch, flux just started boiling immediately. The metal got super hot immediately. The flux would catch on fire. I'm probably using the wrong product. And then you can see the thing was hot long enough that I could still continue to apply the solder long after I took the flame off of there. It made it a huge mess out of the ring. Everything was black, charcoal looking. The flux catching on fire was, I mean, I had not anticipated that at all. I had watched 177.3 YouTube videos on how to solder sheet metal. Most of them were geared towards stainless steel, and the product is slightly different with stainless steel than with mild steel like I'm using. Every single one of those videos, they made it look so easy. I was sufficiently overconfident. I didn't even run a test piece. I just went straight to my little ring here. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great either. I ended up having to do a lot of sanding because of how black everything turned. In the end, I got it soldered on there, and it's super strong and all that's fine. But that was not the way to go about it. And I knew that wasn't the way to go about it. And I knew I was going to have to come up with something different. And I did. But I just wanted to walk you through this. When you watch those YouTube videos of people soldering this steel, don't let them fool you into that, you know, this is really easy, because it ain't easy. It's just not easy. All right, I got updates. I've got my old sound well here. You can see I've attached a piece of metal to it with solder without the flux catching on fire, without everything turning black. I got a funny story to tell. You know when you change out the smoke alarms in your house? Well, my wife wanted to dispose of them correctly because of the batteries in them, and so they're sitting out here in the shop, which is my garage, we're not kidding anybody here, on a shelf. And when all that flux was catching on fire, a whole bunch of smoke alarms started going off on the shelf over there, because apparently they weren't dead or didn't need to be replaced yet, or I don't know what. It was super late last night, and I thought, man, if I don't go just test maybe doing something else, I'm gonna have a hard time sleeping because I'm gonna be thinking about it all night. So I grabbed the hottest soldering iron I have, which is not very hot. It was only a 60-watt soldering iron, not hot at all. I put the flux on there. I'm using acid core solder, and with the 60-watt soldering iron, I got this thing on there, and I can't pull those two things apart at all. And I'm sure I could sand all of that nice and smooth and make it look all good. So to me, that's really, really promising. So what I need is a hotter soldering iron, and guess what? Amazon has one on its way. I'm sure it'll be here soon. And hopefully we've got a solution for us, you know, DIY guys trying to build a resonator. I'm sure there's maybe one other of you out there. Well, we'll know how to do it now. I think we'll be able to solder this thing together successfully, and we'll get it all smoothed out, and it's going to look good. Okay, it's a new day here, and guess what? It's new tool day. Now, I'm going to steal a little gag from luthier YouTuber. His name's Dane Nichols. If you haven't watched him, go check him out. Ton of great content. He did the best unboxing video. The world's seen enough unboxing videos. Dane solved the problem. Go check him out. Dane's went like this. Here goes. I got a new tool. I got the box in off the porch. I took a razor blade. I cut the tape. I opened the flaps on the box. I took the styrofoam out of the box. I took the plastic bag out of the box. I took the tool out of the plastic bag, and here it is. That cracks me up it still cracks me up to this day. That was fantastic, Dane. Anyway, I got this new soldering iron. It's a 260, well, it's a model 260, and it's 200 watt. Way more than that 60 watt one I was using. Bad news is I lost a whole bunch of footage on my last GoPro cards. The good news is that probably means this video is going to be a lot shorter for you, less fast forwarding. I got great results with it. Everything was nice and slow and controlled. It melted and tinned the solder to the metal just fine. The one thing that I wasn't super sure about was it left too much solder behind that I was filing it off. You could grind it off, sand it off, whatever it is. I mean, it worked great and it was flowing and everything was good and it cleaned up really nice and I was happy with the edge I was getting with it, but I was prepared to carry forward with that soldering iron, but I just wanted to keep thinking about it a little bit. And here's what I got. It's new tool day. I took the box enough. No, I'm just kidding. It's a benzomatic it's a little mini torch. It's basically a torch soldering iron thing. Here's what I like about this. That little flame right there could not be any better for doing the edges of a Resonator guitar with solder. That's literally perfect. This little guy's the hot ticket for me. If you guys aren't familiar with mule resonators, you should get familiar with mule resonators because they're amazing. They have some videos on YouTube and they show the shop and a little bit of stuff, but they don't show you necessarily how they make their guitars. But they did do a little clip with their guy who does the soldering. And what I noticed in that video, but they had a little tiny oxygen acetylene torch with this little itty bitty flame on it, and they didn't really show him doing the job, but you could see him doing the job a little bit. And he was doing just like I was doing with this thing. Nice and slow, a little bit of solder, nice and slow, a little bit of solder, nothing crazy. And and that's what I was really ultimately what I was after. Like, obviously these guys haven't figured out how they do it. Let's get to that result. So I've used that thing and I've done a bunch of test work. I videoed all that and I time-lapsed some of that stuff so you can kind of see that process. I lost all that. I'm over it now. We're moving on. Here's what I want to show you. I took that old sound well that I had and I told myself, look, you can't move on to soldering the top into the sides until you get a perfect edge on this sound well from here all the way around to over here. And I told myself, look, even if it's got some imperfections and all that, you need to fix them and make sure you can make this perfect before you can move on to the guitar. So those were the rules I set for myself. Got this edge really good and I had to go back and fix a few things. I learned a whole bunch of stuff while I was doing this. One is your metal prep has to be perfect. So I don't know if the camera can pick it up or not, but if you could see, let's move to where my finger is. If you can see right here, it's a bit more of a rounded edge than it is, say, over here. This is a very sharp, very square edge. And that has everything to do with how the metal fit together. Because this was just practice and a test piece, I didn't put a ton of effort into making this top piece fit the side. This was way more difficult of an edge to get perfect than the guitar is going to be because it was totally inconsistent on how it went together. Here, I think it overhung a little bit. You get into this part and this top was pushed back a little bit. I think it overhung a little bit right here. Anyway, you get the idea. It wasn't perfect prep work to get a perfect edge, which made it even harder for me to get a perfect edge. We're going to do the top into the sides. I think I've passed my test and we're getting ready to do that. Oh, I guess I need some sides. Okay, we're going to bend some sides. Well, if that looks easy, it's because it was. It really wasn't hard at all. Here's something pretty cool though. If you look, you can see on this edge, that's where the curves for the top fit down into this thing. There's a relief routed, maybe only about a ½ inch down, which is where those curves will go. So that's working out great. I need to trim this flap off at the end here and tack it, you know, up there. Sides will be done. Well, this has been a lot of fun. It's pretty cool when you get to see the sides come together and you get the top fit in. You probably saw in that time lapse I had a hard time getting the top in there. Took me a little bit, and I've still got a little bit to do to clean that up and make it all perfect. But I do have some news. I don't know if you guys noticed when I bent the sides, I had this perfectly cut 3 1/8 inch wide by 60 inch long strip of metal. I decided to just run down to a sheet metal shop and just have them cut me a couple of strips for the sides, a couple of strips of the sound well. While I was standing there waiting for them to cut that for me, I was looking around inside their warehouse and I noticed, ooh, they have a laser cutter table and they also have a hydrojet cutting table. So I put together a quick CAD plan of the top and the back and the sides and a couple of little parts of the little ring that goes in there. And I sent it over to them for a quote, and guess what? Totally affordable. I got laser cut tops and backs coming and sides and everything else with the little curves and everything in it. I'm going to carry on with this one that I'm cutting out with the cutoff wheel because anyway, I just want to gain some experience on this one, and then I'll move to the laser cut stuff. So what's that bring us to? That brings us to where are we at? We're right here. We got, you saw in the time lapse. Well, there went my selfie stick, which is literally, here, I'll show you. I'm so low tech on this YouTube stuff. My selfie stick is literally, it's literally a stick. And my camera is just mounted to a clamp, and I just clamp my camera to the selfie stick, and then I clamp the selfie stick to wherever it is I feel like I need to use it. Super low tech. Okay, so here's the sides with the top kind of set in it. Now you can see the top's not sitting in there perfect yet, but it's coming. It's not, I mean, okay, it's not bad, right? I got a little bit of cleanup work to do on this edge here. That'll come together really, really nicely, I think. A little bit of clampage. When when I go to solder this thing together, this is all going to get clamped in tight, and I got to get all this edge all perfect, and everything's got to be great. I think it's still just, I need to bend in a little bit around here. Around this section needs to get bent in a little more because it wants to arc right here. It's got too much pressure. So a little bit more tap and or hammer and dolly work on the wood buck thing, on that thing. A little bit more work on that, and I could even push these ones out a little bit to meet up with the sides a little better. Looks like I got a little aggressive on those. But this is all gonna get, this is all easy to fix up, and I think it's gonna come together really nice. Okay. Like I always say, I'm really happy with that. No, I am. I'm really happy with that. I think I'm going to wrap this episode here because it's starting to get long again. And the next one's going to also be long because I'm going to show you a lot of detail in the solder work. So I think this is a good spot to wrap this one for now. And I'll get back with you guys after I get the laser cut tops and I start getting this one soldered together. For now, thanks for watching. I'm out.